We were going to have Natalie in to accompany him on that, and then something happened, so she couldn't make it. But we got Lawrence, which was the important piece of that. Oh, gosh. Life is good. All the time. So I am so grateful. I'm so grateful. That's enough. You know, Meister Eckhart once said, if the only prayer you ever gave was thank you, God, that would be enough. And so when we live in a state of gratitude, we appreciate the beauty that's around us, the good that has yet to emerge. You know, you ever see pre-miracles? It looks like a mess, but you know, because we live in a divine universe, that it must be coming. So we are talking this month about the 4 principles of prosperity, 4 spiritual laws of prosperity as outlined by Edwin Gain. And I realized that I pretty much stepped on everybody's toes last week, which is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. You know, because I always love how we can talk about anything and life is good and everything, God's everywhere, but don't talk about my money. You know, there's some areas we're not going to go. But when we understand prosperity is a state of mind and a state of being that then is reflected in the outer, we begin to have a different relationship with this thing we call money. Now, all of us grew up with all kinds of wild ideas about money, right? Just like the folks that taught us how to talk and taught us how to tie our shoes, they also taught us some things about money, right? Some of those were really helpful, empowering, wonderful ideas, and some of them we now realize were sort of limiting. And so here's the good news. We don't have to carry forward old beliefs if they don't work for us. We do have to examine them, however. So it's always fun to look at this idea, as we did last week, about tithing as spiritual practice. Not tithing as obligation, not tithing as manipulation, but tithing as spiritual practice that says I put God first in every area of my life. And through this ritual, through this practice, I'm practicing a way to put God in charge of my finances. So that's all good, right? It's all good. I know I had to have a little conversation with myself. Because every once in a while I get this idea that I should actually practice what I preach to you. It's fleeting. It doesn't last long. I can usually get beyond it, but, you know, it happens, right? So I have to look at myself and go, really, are you practicing at the level you want to? And I'm not. I haven't been. I am now, right? That's the good news about life. You can choose again. How good is that? Because all of life is about creating from this moment forward. We can do nothing about the past except perhaps change our relationship with it, right? It's about getting present for now and then creating a future. So that leads us to the second law of prosperity, the second spiritual law, which is the law of goal setting. Now, you hear about goal setting all the time, and if you know, there's so many wonderful goal setting programs. And I just want to get a sense of who's in the room. Has anybody ever set a goal and accomplished it? Okay, cool. And has anybody ever set a goal and not accomplished it? Wow, same group of people. It's amazing. So I always like to look at what's the difference, right? What's the difference? Sometimes we just change the goals, you know. So we set a New Year's resolution. This year I'm going to gain 5 pounds, and boom. Look at me, manifesting like crazy. Or, you know, right? I always love that idea of like, what do we want to do? But here's what I want to tell you. You are an expert in goal setting and goal achieving. An expert. How do I know that? Quick survey. How many of you set a goal to be here this morning? How many of you accomplished it? See, I rest my case. So we're really great at setting goals and achieving goals when we don't have any emotional charge around them. But when we have an emotional charge or we have a limiting belief, we set a goal. Sometimes we set should goals. I should be more whatever. But if it's not really ours to do, I find we don't tend to accomplish them. So I love this idea of realizing the power that we already have. We already have this capacity to set a goal and accomplish it. And what happens, what I look at, is what is my relationship with the goal? Because just as we all raised our hands and realized that every one of us has at some time set a goal and accomplished it, we've also set goals and not accomplished it. And some of those goals were outrageous. Some of you set a goal to be the first person to graduate from college in your family, and none of the things that would make that easy for you were there, and you did it anyways. Maybe you set right? There's goals that we set that aren't just like laid out, but rather took some effort, took some structure, took some discipline, took some persistence, took some breakdowns before we put it together. So we all have this capacity. What I find in my own life, again, when I looked at that, went, okay, how am I doing? Where's my goals? And what I found is I have some in some areas of my life and some in other areas that I don't really pay attention to. And so the well-rounded person says, I'm going to look at my spiritual life. I'm going to look at my financial life. I'm going to look at my social family life. I'm going to look at my physical well-being. I'm going to look at my career. I'm going to look at my relationships. And I'm going to look at how am I going to be more fulfilled in those areas. Right? And then sitting down and really getting clear about what it is you want, what it is you desire. So it's interesting to me. I often tell this story about, for a period of time, I was a minister's spouse. And unfortunately, my minister spouse was not rich enough that I could just be a Sun Valley person. I had to go make a living. So I was like, okay, what do I got to do? So I started figuring this out. And so I went into the real estate market, which was really fun and wonderful. And I joined a coaching program, and it was amazing. It was wonderful. And this guy was talking about achievement and setting goals in all the areas of your life and all that sort of thing. Because real estate, for any of you that have done that, can be a lot like ministry. If you're not careful, it consumes your entire life. Right? So this guy was having this retreat, and it was wonderful, or I shouldn't say seminar. So me and my friends who helped me get started in this program decided we're going to go to Monterey, California, which is beautiful, for this intensive coaching, goal-setting workshop, learning how to be most effective in your work. And so we went in, I think we went in Saturday night. We were going to spend Sunday before the thing started Sunday night and went into Monday and Tuesday. So they play golf. I don't. So they went to play golf. And I was like, well, I'm in Monterey. I'll go to the church here, the little beautiful, sweet little local Center for Spiritual Living in Monterey. It was lovely. 40 or 50 people, very sweet, very kind, a nice little speaker lady who gave a nice little talk. They gave me a cookie afterwards. It was lovely. And the speaker, who was a guest, spoke about the power of your subconscious mind. And she spoke about how if you changed your belief system, what's going on at the subconscious level, your life changes, right? Because if you notice that, it's not what you think consciously, it's what you believe subconsciously that shows up in your life. And so sometimes our affirmation is absolutely in alignment with our belief. And sometimes not. But you should understand that this universal law operates at the level of belief, not at the level of conscious mind. And so we start with our conscious mind until it becomes a subconscious belief. And then it just happens naturally because there's laws, spiritual laws of the universe that work on that. So I was like, cool, I should look at what's going on in my subconscious mind if I want to change my life. Thank you, and thank you for the cookie. And I went on my way to a conference. So the conference, I get there, there's 2,000 people in the main room, 500 in the overflow room watching on video, all who have paid $500 to be a part of this coaching program system of listening to how do you create a business. And so the speaker got going, he was talking about some stuff and how you do this, and he said, you need to know your business is a direct reflection of your subconscious mind. And it's what you believe to be true that's going to show up in your business. So let's look at what are your areas of false belief. What are blah, 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 blah. I was like, this sounds radically familiar. And I thought to myself, why are there 2,500 people in this room and I had to buy my own cookies? I think they give us coffee, right? Pay $500 for this weekend to hear about something that I've been teaching, that this lovely lady's been teaching, that we hear on a regular basis. And I realized because it was directly tied to what we want. So if I want to be the best real estate agent and have a balanced life and create success at all levels, then I should go find out how to do that. You see, we give a gift every week to people that say, if you want to have a different experience of life, we've got some tools. We've got some principles. We've got some practices that allow you to create that life. And we don't even charge you $500, but we may start. If that's what it's going to take for you to get this, Kathy, make a note of that, will you? Right? But it was their business, not their life. Isn't that fascinating? So I've watched this. I've watched how our teachings have evolved over the years. I remember when I first started, people saying, oh, we're just the best kept secret. And then the secret came out, and it's not that much of a secret anymore, right? But there's a way of living when we recognize the power that is inherent to us. You see, one of the limiting beliefs that some of us hold is that we think people get lucky. Born into the right family, born into the right circumstance, born the right height or width, or right? All of the things that we like to say, well, they were lucky. But my experience has been that the universe knows nothing about luck. It only understands intention. So when we start to realize that we already have the power, see, this is the first and most important step. We already have the power. If we think we have to go get the power, then we're out searching out there. But when we recognize that life works through all of its creation, then we just have to show up. And we realize that what we're doing is removing the limiting barriers through which God can reveal itself in all of its fullness and glory. So, in setting our goals, we have to get clear on what we want. It's also helpful to look at what we don't want, right? And do more of the things that create what we want and less of the things that create what we don't want, right? So at one point, I got this crazy idea, because I know I work best if I've got a goal in front of me, so I got this crazy idea that I'd run a half marathon. Now, just a hint, if you're thinking of this, don't do it next week if you've not been training. Just a little general piece of advice, right? But I got this idea that I'd run a half marathon just because I was starting to really take care of my health and feeling better, watching my nutrition program, and I was dropping some pounds, and I was like, what's next? I need to do something. So I had the wisdom to set it out there 6 months, and I looked at it, the plan for like, here's how you get to that. Because, a half marathon's 13.1 miles. The 0.1, I got to tell you, is a killer. Right? And so, if you haven't been running, you might want to warm up. So I created this program, and I started doing it, and I was like feeling good and all that sort of thing. And the day came, and I went, and I ran. When I say ran, I mean walk. I'm still a little too jiggly to do a lot of running. So, but I was like, it doesn't. And here's the amazing thing. I finished first in my class. I know, right? My class happened to be old fat men that walk through through their half marathon, but I'll take the win. I got a medal, right? But you see, and actually, as it turned out, I was the third from the end of people to come through. This little lady with a walker was behind me. And a gal that had kept stopping to take pictures because we were in Sun Valley. It's beautiful. Like, oh, I gotta, so she, like, I got you, girl. I just need one more photo, and I'm whoosh right past her, right? But the point being that I won because I set an intention and I accomplished it, right? I set the intention, I set the goal, and I did it. I even went back and did it again one time. Again, it's a wonderful exercise in that. But I set the goal because it was for me. It was something that I wanted to do to challenge myself. Not that anyone said I had to do this, but I wanted to do this for myself. I wanted to prove that I could, at 55, accomplish this. And I did. Did not set any ground or speed records for it, but I did it. And it was satisfying. It was fun. And you know what? Those people, they were so sweet to me, even at the end. Nobody said, look at you. Come on. We're trying to close up here. Right? They were all very sweet and high-fived, and it was wonderful, right? It's a very supportive community, by the way. Right? So when we're looking at our own lives, we realize that if we want to have a different experience, we've got to be directive. When we understand we're co-creative beings, there's only one creative power in the universe, God, life, power, whatever you choose to call that. That is the thing that creates it all. You didn't create your own life. But we are co-creative because it turns out that when Jesus said to us, "It is done unto you," believe, he meant it. And so when we understand that we are co-creative through this magnificent power that we have been given, that we are goal-seeking beings. It's amazing. I don't know if you've ever looked for a new car. Like you're going, okay. Like I remember one time I was driving down the freeway, and I thought, that's a cute car. And it was a Nissan Maxima. I think I'd like one of those. And so I went, and I got like, okay. And then all of a sudden, there was Nissan Maximas everywhere. It was like as if overnight they just populated, right? Because when we put our attention on something, we see it. That's this wonderful capacity that we have. If I say to you, find all the red in the room, look at you. You've already done it. You've identified, there's several pieces of red in this room, right? Didn't really notice it before, but now I put my intention to it. Boom, there it is. That's how this works. So when we start understanding metaphysics, when we start understanding these principles, we start really getting clear that what I want is what I have to put my attention on. What I seek to experience, I need to know. And then our minds are so fabulous that we begin to identify those things. I like to look at the difference between goal setting and intention setting. So for me, the intention is, how do I want to show up in the world? Right? What's my intention for this moment? And so for me, it has more of a quality of being. Who do I want to be? Do I want to bring more peace, more love, more compassion, more understanding? Do I want to be a better salesperson, engineer, whatever it is you do? Do I want to be a better person? And then I look at the goals as specific, as tangible. So we've been talking a lot about being a mission-centric organization. And there's a lot to that, but fundamentally what it is each of us understanding the intention, the mission, to be a place where people can have a deep, mature experience of God through the practice of unity principles. And that doesn't mean Sunday morning necessarily, hopefully that happens, but it means our coffee time. It means our choir. It means everything that we're doing is that fostering this place, and everybody sees it as part of their responsibility to create that environment. So see how intention has to do with being. Now, I have some goals, and I've thrown them out there before. I set a goal for us to be at 300 people with 50 or more kids on Sunday by the end of this year. Well, that's just outrageous. Because we are, right? So see how that goal then all of a sudden pops up. Oh, but, right? The well buts. And to me, it's not so important that we have 300. I'm cool with 325. I'm good, right? But what that piece does, that tangibility, and you'll notice in all of our prayer work, that's not the prayer. We're not praying for things. We're not praying for goals. But the goal helps us to look at, well, what would we do with 300 people? This room seats 180 max. Gee, we might have to have a second service. What would 50 kids look like in that tiny little room with one very sweet but maybe very stressed teacher with 50 kids, right? It says, we should be designing the next thing. So here's the good news, is the universe doesn't care about your past. Isn't that good news? So why do we keep telling it about our past? It doesn't care. It's like, okay, well, get back to me when you're ready to grow. Get back to me when you're ready to change. I know how to do that, right? But sometimes we're like, well, nobody in my family's gone to college. Okay? Nobody in Charlotte has ever done, whatever. I always like to say, there's that old story but basically the punchline is, when it comes down to making excuses, one is as good as another. You can be really creative about why life won't work for you. Doesn't matter. Because the universe works for all. But we have to start doing the things that cooperate with the life that we want. Does that make sense? So understanding intention, how do I want to show up in the world? That has to do with my being. And then showing up with my goals, which have to do with my doing. So all of life, and you'll appreciate this, Lawrence, all of life is about finding that symphony called doobie-doobie-doo. But thank you very much. This is when you need a drummer, right? It's never a drummer when you need one, right? But it really is about being the place and then doing the things that person does. You see, in order to learn how to run, I had to do the things that runners do. Guess what they do? They run. Like every day, not just once, They don't run to the store, meaning get in their car. They actually get on the road, put on tennis shoes, and they run every day, right? You want to be a pianist? You might want to spend some time playing the piano. You want to do anything, you're going to spend some time in that skill, but having the mindset of the person that does that well helps us to do the things. What would that person do? Now here's the biggest thing. You've heard me say it before. You will hear me say it again. But I'm going to keep saying it till I get it. And that is, we confuse our job descriptions. The universe, this magnificent divine being that has created all things, knows how to do everything. Right? Think about it. The universe that created all the planets, all the solar systems, all the flowers, all the grass, everything is at work. And you say to the universe, well, how's that going to happen? I've set a goal to double my income, but how's that going to happen? Not your job to know. So our job is always to figure out what. What do I want? What would bring me joy? How can I be of greater service? And then allow the universe that actually knows how to create all things to work in our lives. But some of us want to micromanage. Say, well, okay, universe. I know 7 days and all that. You did the whole universe, but this is my life. And here's what I'm thinking. Right? We want to get out of our way to just keep focusing on what? What's the next step? What do? We put our plan together, we do the things, and listen to what we're being called, because all kinds of magnificent things happen when we get ourselves out of the way so that the universe can respond. Isn't that cool? Yeah. Isn't it easier? Yeah. Like, okay, you just go ahead and run the universe. I'm just going to take this little piece and say what I want. How's that? Right? So just listen. Whenever you set a goal, writing them down is, highly encouraged. They'll tell you there's thousands and thousands of studies around all of this. Writing them down, being specific, setting dates, doing them in the first person, not someday I'll, right? Because when you say to the universe, someday I'd like, the universe has been around for a long time. Going to be around for a long time, so you're not high on the priority. But when you claim it now, it's like, oh, okay, I guess I got to work, right? So it's about knowing who you are now. Living in the state of knowing that is so, paying attention to what isn't yet, and keep moving in the direction of your dreams. Do the things. I like Edwina's little story, her little story about, said, I realized I keep telling this story, I'm so broke, I don't have any money, blah, 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 but I need to do things that support me in feeling abundant. And so she had this image that what prosperous people do, obviously, is they eat stuffed olives. And so she went and got some of these fancy stuffed olives, and her and her friend had a party, and they had stuffed olives and just played rich. Right? So do it within. Don't go buy a Mercedes today because you're going to manifest. No, if it's in the budget, fine, go. But if it's not, but do the things that make you feel alive and prosperous and wonderful, that fit within your current reality. The other thing, I wasn't going to say it because, I love you, but she said it, so I'll just quote her. She said, give yourself a 21-day challenge. I'm going to clean up the language here. 21 days, you're going to go on a fast. And for that 21 days, you're going to stop whining, moaning, and complaining. You want to do now the marathon's looking pretty good to you, right? No, I'll just do the half marathon, thanks, because that's achievable, right? 21 days. So we'll start with 21 minutes. If we get there, we'll do it again, right? Because see what we do, not realizing it, but in our whining and in our complaining and all that stuff, we're just speaking into the universe what we don't want, and the universe has no option but to provide what we don't want. So, cleanse thou self, and there are thou careless words. Speak truth. Be affirming. It's fun. 21 days from today. Who knows what that is? Today's what, the 13th? Okay. Can I, whatever day that is, can I do that? Worth a shot, right? Not start over. I have to say, it's so fun It's such a privilege for me to get to be in this position and doing what we're doing, and I just watch, because I get to see this both at an individual level, and I get to see it at a larger level as a community. And what I come up against very often is there's a mindset that has been held about who Unity of Charlotte is that I'm getting to help us move beyond. But we've always done, or we da-da-da, or da-da-da. I said, well, let's try something new then. Let's set a goal. Let's set an intention. Let's throw a party. Let's paint. Let's do stuff. And I just was watching yesterday as this little group of people came together and cleaned and sweated and made the place beautiful. And it's like, yeah, see, that feels like a prosperous church. And we had a ball together. You know, I mean, that was the best part. We just had fun. It was really fun. So be with me. As I said, we're moving into this weekend feels significant. This dedication ceremony feels significant for me. That we mark in time, like, yeah, this is our next step as community. And our greater yet to be, I don't think has revealed itself fully, but I think it's pretty exciting. Yeah? All right. I'm going to stop preaching. For now. I'll be back next week. Right? It's exciting, though. Just hear me when I say the power, you have the power. You've always had the power. Closer than hands and feet, nearer than our breath. Say it, the Lord of hosts, right? It's already here. Now the opportunity is to start directing it in a more conscious and powerful way. Let us pray as we simply come together in this moment. As we celebrate and recognize the one life expressing in, through, and as all of creation. As we open our hearts and our minds to this divine presence, always available, we realize that the very breath we breathe is the breath of God. That the wisdom that we experience is the wisdom of the divine. That the love that we experience is the love of God. And so today we renew our commitment to be conscious co-creators, to be thoughtful and directive in our thought, our word, our action, to stand as a place of peace, of joy, of harmony, and abundance. We stand in the midst of the divine, and it is our privilege to give birth to something new, something more, something magnificent. Scripture tells us, do you not know that you are God's? Let us remember in this moment our true identity. Spiritual beings, housed in human form, having a magnificent experience of this thing called love, of truth, of joy. So I proclaim the truth that we are abundant beings right here and right now. That we are experiencing wholeness at every level of being through health and well-being and vitality. That we are loving creatures because we experience divine love, which graciously receives and joyously gives of itself. We allow our lives to be healed and transformed through the power of this love. How good it is to know this truth. And so we are blessed. We bless this community. We know that this next chapter that we are co-creating is powerful and magnificent and is of great service to Charlotte and indeed to the world. We bless our brothers and sisters around the planet. We hold the intention for a planet at peace, a world that works for all. And as always, we bless all priests, rabbis, ministers, teachers of every faith. For we know where two or more are gathered, the presence of the I Am is there, and it is good. In joy and in gratitude, then I simply give thanks, allowing it to be so, as together we say, and so it is. Amen.